Hi YouTube and welcome to Danielle's Denture Diaries. I am Danielle. So this video is one that honestly it was going to happen eventually. We were not always going to agree. So here it is. In a video that I made titled, "Well, this was disappointing," I am trying to Google and look up the emotional and mental toll that is taken out when, or that happens when an individual or we go and get a full mouth extraction, a extraction in general, and either we get dentures or, as we discussed in a previous video, maybe we don't get dentures. But the bottom line is that I wanted to see how much research was done. The ideal end of the video or end of the research would lead to having resources of some kind or some kind of a therapy or a counseling, or I don't really know. I don't know what I was looking for. I just know that I did it. And just like the video is titled, I was personally disappointed. And that was with the phrases and words that I personally could think of to use and that I tried. And that is going to lead me right into the next piece of this video and why I'm doing a follow-up. I work in the service industry, and I've always worked in the service industry, be it retail or I've worked in a restaurant before. And something that I've always believed in, but I didn't know the words to it until the job I'm at right now. But if one person comes forward, odds are there are a number of other people who feel the same way, and they just don't feel comfortable or confident enough to say it, or they feel like for whatever reason they're not allowed to talk about it. And that's just good business practice. You hear out the feedback, you think on, can I within reason accommodate this feedback and therefore make not just this person happy but potentially an entire group of people. In the video I'm talking about, where I'm disappointed by my own personal research, a few people, a few members of this support group have come forward and said, hey, I actually found something different. And what I want to do is I want to say thank you for coming forward and saying that you found something different. And I hope more people drop the phrases and words that they used into the comments so that I can continue digging into it deeper. I went, we'll call it surface level. For me, my life, sometimes the research I do is right here in the moment with you guys when I have the time before I go to bed, before I take off my makeup, after I've eaten dinner, I put my son to bed. This is when I have the time to do this kind of stuff. Otherwise, I'm with my kid, working, cleaning, taking care of my house, things like that. So what I want to say is that I do realize that the phrases I used were probably minimal. Like I said, surface level. And the words and phrases that other people think of in their own creative and personal mind yielded a different kind of success or lack of success. And that is okay. Some people found the exact same things that I did also in the comments. Us being all very different, we're going to think differently. None of us are going to type something into anything and say the exact same thing every single time. Hence the beauty of this community and the point of it being here and the point of having the comments is that we can learn, hopefully not just from me, but each other and other resources too. Something I've been making a point to say, and I typically, I have it in my disclaimer in the channel thing itself, I am not a professional dentist. I am a experienced denture wearer. I know the experience of getting a full mouth extraction and a tooth being missed from the extraction and going back to get that one taken out. And I speak on my own experiences. I'm not a professional. And I will never claim to be. I'm here to open up the conversation, and that's exactly what we're having, a conversation. So, for everyone being respectful, leaving the feedback, telling me, hey, I found success with these phrases, I appreciate you immensely. You are fueling the conversation, and you are showing other people in the comments and future viewers, or anyone that goes back to double watch it, hey, wait, but there's more. I want to also put out a disclaimer that just because I am the creator of this content for this specific support group, channel, whatever you call it in your own personal life, I am not the beginning nor the end of research. I have been saying it a lot lately. Please do your own research. Do not just take my words for fact. Don't just take my words for being, well, that's it, that's a wrap. I love and I'm excited that I was able to spark some kind of a thought train in other people that they're like, hey, hold on a second, I want to check that out myself. And you did. And that's fantastic. And I am never going to be the kind of person who says, I know everything, do not question me, who are you? So, hence this video. I'm not going to take down the previous video, but I will continue to follow up, just like I will throughout the rest of the time on this support group. I won't always agree with what I said in the beginning. I won't always agree with what I'm saying right now. And eventually my decisions and mind will change again later. It's an evolution, it's a growth, it's a journey. And for those of you sticking around to go through it with me, awesome. Some people will leave, new people will come, it's going to happen. Some people are going to use this support group for as long as they need until they feel they've gotten the information they wanted, and then they're going to move back to watching Hollywood drama or commentary content or I don't know, whatever it is. I mean, I myself, I have YouTubers and content creators that I love to follow. Sometimes I fall off the bandwagon and eventually I come back. So, anyways, I just wanted to, again, thank you guys for the feedback, the tips, the responses. I do have notes right here next to me so that I don't fall off track. And I appreciate you guys, again, having that conversation with me. There's a reason I go back and I do double check comments that I might have responded to or read or made a video on. I am almost always going back to see if you guys followed up again, because for whatever reason it doesn't notify me. Once I respond one time, I don't get notified again. So I go back and I see what the conversation has turned into. In case you guys haven't noticed, we're already almost 10 minutes into this video. It's going to be a longer one. At least I think it's going to. I'm going to be doing research again right here with you guys. I'm going to be referencing the support group members that not called me out, but they left the feedback. I believe they deserve credit for calling the information, calling the whatever you want to call it. I'm going to read their comment and then we will do research from there. And just like in the last video I just made about people who get dentures or do not get dentures after extractions, this video may end up being the same. So feel free to kind of jump different time lengths in this video. If anyone in the comments wants to drop timestamps in the comments, I'm all for it. I've seen it on Madison Hill's channel. I love her. She's awesome. So if you guys want to do that, Cool. I know not everyone wants to hear me talk the way I have been right now. So I am, as always, in my cozy robe. I have some caffeine just in case. My throat's scratchy already anyway, so there we are. And I got my comfy cozy blankie around me too. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to go back to that video and I'm going to kind of scroll through the comments. I don't believe people have been leaving comments anywhere else regarding this specific feedback. So we're just going to stick to this area and review. All right, so that was someone who agreed. Okay, so Marina Ojeda. Danielle, I looked up on Google the mental and emotional feeling that goes with having no teeth, and it brought up some stuff. You might want to look at that. Sometimes at Google, you have to be specific because I understand the question that you were asking, but they gave you like a across-the-board answer with that, which has nothing to do with your emotional or mental feelings regarding that question. Let's see. Mental and emotional feeling that goes with having no teeth. So what I'm doing right now is I am copying and I'm going to go to Google and I'm going to paste that phrase verbatim. Okay. So again, as always, I went to good old handy dandy Google. I copied and pasted that same exact phrase from Marina's comment. And the first thing that came up is the psychological and social impact associated with missing teeth. Okay. It says if you are reading this, it means you either have a loose tooth that is likely about to fall out, or you have at least one tooth that is already missing. Either or, you are probably already feeling the effects of the situation. It is likely that you are scared, angry, and frustrated with this situation. You are likely a bit overwhelmed and are worried about the costs associated with getting a replacement tooth. We understand. Each day we work with patients. Okay, so this is the Implant and Perio Center of Kansas. So this is a place of business that the title of their article is The Psychological and Social Impact Associated with Missing Teeth. I believe I've touched on this a little bit before, but not this specific article. Tooth loss is considered to be a traumatic experience. Regardless of the why and how behind the experience, our smile is considered to be one of the most important tools that we have at our disposal. The mouth serves in communicating, creating impressions, boosting the confidence, improving our self-esteem. If a tooth is lost, we experience many negative emotional consequences. These include denial, anger, depression, and even anxiety. Regardless of who you are, what job you have, or your social status, missing teeth have a detrimental impact on your mental health. The social impact of missing teeth. There is a certain stigma associated with tooth loss. When people lose a tooth, they are embarrassed. Many with missing teeth are viewed as those who do not properly care for themselves, those that are unhealthy, and those that are too poor to remedy the problem. Right for the guts. Got it. The fact of the matter is, tooth loss has many contributing factors. Not all are directly related to these typical stereotypes. Individuals that have a missing tooth are less likely to socially interact with others. I can confirm that personally. In fact, many completely withdraw due to the fact that they feel that their appearance is negatively impacted by the missing tooth and their embarrassment. And the next paragraph is, let us help. As you were reading this, you probably found that you too suffer from many psychological and social issues due to your missing teeth. Do not let this hold you back anymore. We here at Implant and Perio Specialists offer high-quality multiple teeth replacements in Wichita. So it's a service, and that's something they can do for you to help you, is they can do implants. So I backed out of that article. People also ask, how does it feel to have no teeth? Tooth loss also has a psychological impact. It has been shown generally to lower a patient's quality of life, with this compromised oral function leading to decreased self-esteem and a decline in psychological well-being. Patients may be embarrassed to smile, eat, and talk. And that is on wikipedia.org, Toothlessness Wikipedia. Can missing teeth cause depression? This is in Compromised Mental Health from atxfamilydentistry.com. According to a study conducted in 2014, missing teeth can be linked to tendencies of both depression and anxiety. Can teeth affect emotions? It is also indicated that half of all people with depression rated their teeth condition as fair or poor. A new scientific review of related studies found a strong link between periodontal, or gum, disease and mood conditions like stress, anxiety, distress, anxiety, depression, and loneliness. Which I would imagine, of course, if I was personally always worried about my crowns falling out, or crowns that maybe I ingested and couldn't figure out how to replace them, or MacGyver a thing to remedy it, I was stressed that someone else would see it. I would always be stressed about what am I going to eat. And in fact, the stress of it sometimes led me to not even eating at all. So there's distress and anxiety with that. And then the depression and loneliness, well, it's hardly a fair situation to be in. Was I doing anything at the time to change the circumstance? Absolutely not. I was not in a good place. And loneliness, well, I felt very alone. No one was relating to me. This was long before this group was a thing, or I found YouTube. And not only that, but I would avoid people, and my friend circles have always been small. And I feel like a part of that was trained in for me as like a self-defense mechanism. For me, once I gain a friend, it's very hard for me to not open up. So I only have one friend who I open up about everything. She knows everything. And that's it. That's not to say that I'm lonely when I have her as a friend, but it does get lonely because I do imagine some people isolate to a much further extent, like I have in the past before. But can tooth decay affect your mental health? Greater risk for dental decay and tooth loss can lead to more frequent pain experience, social isolation, and low self-esteem, and reducing quality of life, and in turn possibly being associated with poorer mental and overall health. From ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. That's interesting. What is a person without teeth called? Edentulous. That's a thing from Merriam-Webster.com. How do you cope with losing teeth? See, now this is where, again, this is the ideal situation. I think we all know and we can all confirm that variations of depression, low quality of life, isolation, social issues, lacking in taking pictures with loved ones, which can be very impactful, lack of smiling at those we love when we want to share a special moment. Sometimes even maybe skipping out or holding back completely when it comes to certain celebrations or moments where you would otherwise be taking pictures or home videos can be highly impactful. We don't need confirmation of that, but the ideal is that there's going to be something here that's related to where do we go for help. And my understanding is going to be, I guess, seeking a therapist in general or a counselor. But we'll go down that rabbit hole here in just a second. So anyways, how do you cope with losing teeth? If the teeth you've lost aren't next to each other, then we recommend a partial denture. In most cases, however, we strongly suggest supporting your replacement teeth with an appropriate number of dental implants which replace teeth, lost teeth roots, and offer unmatched support for your dental prosthetic. Okay, so that was kind of more to the side of what I found in the first video. But the first pieces of information were pretty useful. What does your teeth say about your personality? I mean, this is interesting, I guess, for anyone looking to reshape their teeth, or if you're getting your dentures shaped and customized, what your teeth say about your personality. Feminine traits usually have shorter and rounded teeth, whereas masculine has larger and squarer teeth sets. The shape of the teeth, if you have pointy teeth, then it is considered that you generally have an aggressive personality. The pointiness of the teeth helps to show the hostile attitude that you might have, which is interesting because I refer to my dentures as fangs. So do it that way you will. Let me see. I scrolled down. Another interesting point, I guess, is how can I have confidence with missing teeth? Oh, sorry, that previous article. What does your teeth say about your personality? That is from www.india.com, and that's a lifestyle site. Anyway, so how can I have confidence with missing teeth? Want 5 ways to increase your confidence after tooth loss? Consider dental implants. And it lists the benefits of dental implants from noordasmiles.com, noordasmiles.com. Is losing teeth considered a disability? From aapd.org. It says, therefore, an individual should be considered as having a dental disability of orofacial pain, infection, or pathological condition, and or lack of functional dentition, affect nutritional intake, growth and development, or participation in life activities. I can absolutely attest to that. But no, I'm not on disability for it. That'd be interesting to see if that's an actual thing, but to my knowledge, it's not. Again, sound off in the comments if you know otherwise, or if you've maybe qualified for a disability, or maybe you found a way that it does work. It'd be interesting to be compensated for our lack of ability to otherwise have a normal life. How important is teeth for attraction? The appearance of your teeth is very important when it comes to dating, as it contributes to your overall physical attractiveness. This goes for both men and women, and a 2013 study showed that the majority of people care the most about teeth in dating. Okay. There's not a specific number to it. I'll take it with a grain of salt. I mean, do I myself wear dentures because it contributes to my confidence, and it did play a part in my confidence with dating. I got engaged to that person, now married. Absolutely. Do I think this is a fact? No, absolutely not. The person that I know in my personal life, she is married to a man who has all his biological teeth, and she does not have any, nor has she been wearing her dentures, and they are a pretty happy looking couple to me. So what disorders are missing teeth? Anodontia is a genetic disorder defined as the absence of all teeth. It usually occurs as part of a syndrome that includes other abnormalities. Also rare but more common than anodontia are hypodontia and oligodontia. Hypodontia is genetic in origin and usually involves the absence from 1 to 5 teeth. Do teeth matter in beauty? Do you use teeth when kissing? I will say that if there's an absence of teeth, like if I don't wear my bottom denture when I kiss my husband, in the past it led me to be very reserved and not as in the moment. He doesn't notice the difference, and I have come out and like kind of told him like, hey, like I had to kiss you because I wasn't wearing my bottom denture. It was painful at the time. And he would say, okay, well, I didn't even notice. All he would notice is that my change of energy was that I would be very in the moment when I would wear my bottom denture, and then if I'm not wearing it, I'm not as in the moment. And he could kind of feel that. And to him, he sensed that I didn't want to kiss him. So that's all I really, have on that. What is teeth dysmorphia? Facial dysmorphia is a mental health condition where the sufferer has a warped perception of the appearance of their face. This commonly includes distorted views on how their nose, skin, and teeth look. Well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a dysmorphia in my case. I physically don't have biological teeth. It's just the fact, and that's there, so who knows? Is teeth anxiety a thing? Dental anxiety is common and can affect people of any age. Children who have had bad dental experiences in most cases can overcome their fear if the situation is managed well and they are well cared for and supported during further dental visits. What is hopeless teeth? Hopeless teeth, terminal dentition, are teeth that have been so compromised by gum disease, infection, or decay that they are either impossible to save or unwise to save because they carry a hopeless long-term prognosis, which was, without having the word to it, was essentially my circumstance that I told my dentist when I was explaining to him that I wanted to have dentures. I told him, I said the lingering fear that even if I were to have all working and functioning crowns over my biological teeth, the fact that a toothbrush touched just the edge of one of my side teeth, I'll never forget, I was trying to brush my teeth with my son. And the toothbrush brushed just, like one of the bristles went just between where my gums were and the crown was. There was just a hairline maybe of exposed tooth, And it was enough to make me jump out of my skin. And I said, and if that's the case, what's happening under there and how long before that causes an infection and I could pass away. And my son's only 4. So, and at the time he was 2, 3, 2. So that was my experience with that. The study of emotional effects of tooth loss in... Okay. So we're going to go to an article. It's www.ncbi.nlm.nih.gov. So we started to kind of touch on that article here. So let's go into that one. There's like a hair or something. The study of the emotional effects of tooth loss in an edentulous Gujaratari, I'm sorry I'm butchering this, Gujarati population and its association with depression. This is a Journal of Indian Prosthodontic Society. Context: to fully estimate the burden of illness due to edentulism and establish valid treatment outcomes measures in this regard, it is equally important to study its psychosocial repercussions. The aim was to conduct a study to explore the emotional reactions to tooth loss, screen for current depressive symptoms, and test for association between the two among the edentulous Gujarati population. I hope I'm saying it right. The setting and design. So they're basically describing the study, which now I'm like really interested actually. The settings and design. A total of 147 edentulous people visiting the prosthodontics department were surveyed. The subjects and methods. A questionnaire based on previous studies to test the emotional reactions to tooth loss and 9-item patient health questionnaire to test for depression were used. So they wanted to establish a baseline. Did these people have pre-existing depression already in order to measure was depression caused, or did it happen after the fact, or was this already established? Statistical analysis used. The data were analyzed using the chi-square test with the help of SPSS V 18.0, IBM Corp, Armonk, New York, USA. I'm not sure what that part means, I'm not going to lie. If anyone here specializes in this kind of stuff, or maybe you're just simply familiar, please drop a comment. Otherwise, if I remember, I will go back and I will see what all that means. But essentially, it's what was used to analyze the numerical data. Results. Totally, 100 of the 147 edentulous people returned the questionnaire, of which 58% experienced difficulties in accepting tooth loss, and 37% felt unprepared for its effects. So they were overwhelmed. Like they had no idea what to even think about it, and maybe they were even dismissive of like, oh yeah, if you took a tooth, like it wouldn't bother me, I'd be fine. And then at the end of it, they were like, oh, wow, okay, this is a lot. Whether it's that physical pain, the mental and emotional, hopefully specifically the mental and emotional, since this is what it's testing. Those with difficulties accepting tooth loss had a greater effect on self-esteem and social life. They had more reservation about discussing tooth loss and were far more likely to experience depression. Both groups were satisfied with dentures, had no problem meeting their friends or partners without dentures, and leaving out dentures at night. Okay, so they were satisfied. Wait, both groups were satisfied with dentures. Had no problem meeting their friends or partners without the dentures and leaving out the dentures at night. The conclusion, 58% of edentulous people had difficulties accepting tooth loss, which was unrelated to denture satisfaction. So it's okay to be sad and unaccept the tooth loss or the extraction. It had nothing to do with the fact that having the denture was still something that potentially made them happy, or they were okay with it, or at least they accepted it, which is something that in the last video, Paradise Acres and I have been talking a little bit about it, or commenting back and forth, that, you know, it is possible for us to be happy in the aftermath of having dentures. Does it make the situation any less unfair? Not necessarily, and that's okay. It's a pretty big thing to have done. Respondents appeared to be restricted in social activities mainly due to functional limitations, so chewing, biting, soreness, tenderness. Those with difficulties accepting tooth loss were more likely to experience depression. So not necessarily towards the dentures itself, but the tooth loss itself. This is the introduction. Although the face represents only a small portion of the surface of the body, it embodies our social identities. The body schema, it's a psychological image of your physical self, is heavily invested with emotional meaning, and significant changes in body image can result in varying degrees of emotional instability. Yeah, I would say so. The loss of teeth, which causes many adverse anatomic, aesthetic, and biomechanical sequelae, can also prove to be a terrible psychological shock to patients. In order to fully understand the burden of illness among the edentulous patient group, one must therefore cultivate an understanding of the physical as well as the psychosocial dimensions of tooth loss. Dentistry has witnessed much research into the physical aspects of tooth loss. An interesting study in the non-clinical dimensions, or the impact of the oral health on quality of life, has also been noted. So I'm going to jump back just a little bit here, talking about that psychological shock to patients. My dentist did a fair job of asking me numerous times, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" He invited me to have as many consultations as I needed before I made the decision, and his words were, "Once we do this, there's no going back. I would rather you continue to call my office, talk to the nurses here, the assistants here, come sit and talk with me, and we'll keep talking about it for as long as you need before you make your final decision." And I personally knew it was the decision. I was already done. Did I end up having more questions? Yes. But aside from that, I knew the answer, but he still would keep asking, "Okay, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" And it was both because of my age, but also because of that psychological shock. He would always say, "Once we do it, there's no going back. Once we do it, there's no going back." And he did not directly say himself, "It's going to be a shock once it happens." Maybe he assumed I knew that. I did know that. I mean, if I were to sit here and think about a movie where someone's teeth are knocked out or whatever, like, those are pretty mortifying and horrifying pieces of a film or a movie to watch. So, yeah, I would assume being put under and waking up to having no biological teeth in my mouth would be very shocking. To walk around and have no teeth in my mouth at any given point would be shocking for me. And I don't know if other dentists fully disclose the shock, or that you're going to need a few days to kind of really get through your feelings. My dentist touched on that a little bit as well, just saying like it's going to be a lot. So please give yourself some patience and some grace. But he was also talking about the physical healing and the additional care that my mouth would need while it was healing. But yeah, again, just going into that preparedness when someone goes in and having all their teeth removed. The Oral Health Impact Profile is one such measurement, which is used to determine the adverse impact of oral conditions on daily life. It covers the aspects of functional limitation, disability, and handicap due to oral disease based on a theoretical model by Locker. A national survey of adult dental health in the United Kingdom reported that an increasing number of adults find the prospect of total tooth loss upsetting. I would agree. For anyone who is thinking about going through this, there's probably a lot of emotion tied and invested into it. Anyone who's had to talk about it with their dentist or initiate that conversation at any point in time, it's heavy and it's hard. At least for me and my experience, for some people, it was probably the best conversation they'd ever had in their life. For me personally, I asked the question back in high school, am I ever going to need dentures? And my dentist said yes. Are all my teeth going to fall out sooner than most people? He said yes. And I never vocalized it again until several years later. And I was sitting in that dentist's chair, and the gorgeous assistant sat me down, and she was reassuring me, sweetie, it was not your fault. There was nothing you could have done. You did the best you could to save these teeth, and so on and so forth. But for my dentist to come in and say, so this is a denture consultation? And I said yes. And he said, okay, tell me more or whatever. And for me to physically vocalize, I need all of my teeth taken and removed, it was the hardest thing for my ears to physically hear. It burned when it left my throat. And at the same time, it was this huge relief off my chest because it was something that I needed to say to someone of not value, but in the profession and in a place that could actually help me. I had told, my best friend, my significant other at the time, but to say it to a professional who I was terrified of for judging me because you are a dentist and you tell me to floss my teeth and you tell me to mouthwash and stay away from drinks and coffee and all this other stuff, I was terrified. But to finally just say it was bittersweet. It was upsetting. The emotional reactions and feelings experienced by edentulous and partially dentate people as a result of tooth loss have been explored qualitatively and quantitatively in previous studies in the United Kingdom. The social context in which we live is important in shaping responses to diseases and the experience of health and illness. To determine the societal and cultural influences, transcultural studies comparing emotional reactions to tooth loss between Eastern and Western societies have also been carried out. In order to be more representative of the general population in Hong Kong, such a study has been conducted among the community-dwelling individuals. However, not much in this respect has been reported in India. So I'm not sure. It sounds like they're saying they've done studies in India and the feelings just weren't the same between the cultures as far as, how people feel in general about tooth loss, which is another interesting point. Maybe some cultures focus more on the internal beauty versus the external beauty, or maybe something you see on a day-to-day basis is common there, but not somewhere else. So it's more, we'll call it accepted, or acceptable, or common, or whatever. But I do think that, for me, the lack of confidence in my teeth in general as they were breaking and when I had the crowns before my extractions, I was not in a good place mentally or emotionally. And something that I've had to come to kind of realize is that my mental status actually has a lot to impact on my physical well-being. And not just because if I'm stressed and upset, I'm not going to eat, but it wears and tears my immune system, and I was very sick all the time. And ever since my self-esteem did get built after getting dentures, skip the extractions, go straight to dentures, I'm better off than I ever have been. Even like my high school days, I was never this well off in a health sense. The edentulous state is usually associated with an elderly population. One emotional problem often associated with aging is depression. Psychological response to tooth loss and denture wearing may be influenced by a patient personality or the current state of mental health. So essentially how I'm reading that is that when you look at our older community, our older individuals, they're already predisposed to experiencing or gaining depression, and getting their teeth removed, or the idea of it, tends to just make it worse. To the knowledge of the authors, the relationship between emotional reactions to tooth loss and depression have not yet been researched. The aims of the present study were to investigate 1. The emotional reactions to tooth loss among the edentulous patients visiting prosthodontics department of Government Dental College and Hospital, Ahmedabad. 2. Screen for current depressive symptoms among such patients. And 3. Test if the patient's emotional reactions to tooth loss were influenced by their mental health status. So now it goes through the subjects and methods, and then after that it goes through the results. So I'm going to go as fast as I can through this part without missing important pieces. Prior to the initiation of the study, approval was granted by Ethical Committee of the Institute. Initiation of the study. Okay. A questionnaire based on previous qualitative and quantitative research was translated into colloquial languages, Hindi and Gujarati, and pilot tested among 15 subjects. These individuals were not included in the study that was eventually taken or used. For comprehension and accuracy, following which necessary revisions were made. So just making sure that the questions made sense, that that it would fairly cover all the variables that they would need in order to assess depression. That makes sense to me. The questionnaire contained 3 sections. The first section included questions on general information like demographics and questions to test the participants' beliefs and attitudes regarding dental health and awareness. The second section included questions exploring the emotional reactions toward tooth loss and those about denture wearing experience. So let's reiterate here real quick. There are people who get the extractions and never get dentures, and then there are people who do get extractions. They get dentures for a little while and then for whatever reason decide not to wear them. And then there's people who get dentures and maintain, or people who get extractions and then they maintain wearing dentures. So let's not forget that there's a few different people here to be represented. The third section consisted of the 9-item patient health questionnaire rating scale. The PHQ-9 is a self-administered scale that was drawn from the primary care evaluation of mental disorders, and it is based on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition. Criteria for major depressive disorder. Based on information from previous studies, statistical power was calculated using a sample size of 100. It achieves an 80% power to detect an effective size with a significance level 0.05000. Only those patients who were in the process of getting new dentures made were included. So the study, right. Okay, so they administered the pilot test to the 15. It sounds like this is where, yeah, so they actually did the questionnaire for the true test. Only those patients who were in the process of getting new dentures made were included. So keep in mind, this study does not include those who are getting teeth extracted. And not looking forward to having dentures for whatever reason. Health insurance didn't cover it. Whatever. These people were looking forward to having dentures. A total of 200 potential subjects were approached. More subjects were enrolled to account for potential dropouts at the initial stage of their treatment and invited to take part. Those who agreed to participate were distributed questionnaires to be filled out at home. Selecting this sampling strategy increased the compliance as the patients were more likely to come with self-completed questionnaires at their next appointment. Moreover, the participants could be encouraged not to leave any questions unanswered. For those subjects who could not read, questionnaires were filled in the form of a structured interview by students involved with their treatment. Inclusion criteria for the study were patients completely edentaless in both arches, patients who were in the process of getting a new set of dentures made, and those who were able to read or at least understand through verbal explanation. Sorry, there was a tag tapping something. It sounded like it was my window. Patients with common difficulties, cognitive impairment, and those unwilling to participate were excluded. So no one was forced to do this. And then explains the formula of the questionnaires, the quantitative study, and results. Totally, 200 potential subjects who satisfied the inclusion criteria were approached, out of which 53 denied to participate. Of the remaining 147, those who had filled incomplete details or did not return the questionnaire were excluded from the study. This yielded a final sample size of 100 subjects for the test. There were a total of 62 males and 38 females among the respondents. A total of 10 participants were aged between 31 and 50 years. 7 between 51 and 70 years. And 23 were aged 71 years and over. So pretty wide age demographic or variation. I would say that sounds almost like the ages that are here. So it sounds about right to me. Not that it matters. I mean, I wasn't there for the test, but totally 35 people had edentulous for more than 5 years. The remaining characteristics of the study group and answers to questions directed toward judging their beliefs and attitudes about oral health are depicted in Table 1. So these are people who, in Table 1 here, it's again going over those sections we had talked about. Where is it? The first section included questions on general information like demographics and testing your beliefs and aptitudes regarding dental health and awareness. So they were answering questions about what was your level of education completed, reason for tooth loss as self-reported. Are you currently wearing dentures, yes or no? Do you visit a dentist only if you have a problem? Do you consider tooth loss a part of the normal aging process? And do you think dentures as good substitutes for the natural teeth? Which of the 100 remaining subjects, 69 of them said yes, they are good substitutes for natural teeth. 31 said no. And it's the same statistic for do you consider tooth loss a part of the normal aging process? 69 of them said yes. 31 of them said no. To those wearing dentures, 64 of them said yes. 36 of them said no. Which is interesting because 64 people wear dentures. 69 said yes, dentures would be good substitutes. So there's a few people who said they would be good substitutes, but they themselves were not wearing dentures at the time. Which is just interesting. Not that take it for what you think. The reasons for tooth loss as self-reported periodontal problem was 62 people, caries 25, and other was 32. Did you find it difficult to accept losing your teeth? 58 of the respondents, which means 58, stated that they experienced difficulties in accepting their tooth loss, while 42% stated that they experienced no difficulties. See, now that's really interesting because that means that in the study, almost 50%, almost half of the population of these 100 people, almost half, just a little over half, said they do experience issues. Almost half said, no issues, I'm fine with my teeth not being there. Now, also keep in mind, this can be a variation of how many teeth were also missing or lost. How long was it before you felt you had accepted losing your teeth? So the responses allowed were immediately, within 6 months, within a year, took over a year, and still have not accepted it. Those with difficulties, so that 58% that said they had difficulties accepting their dentures, said 14 reported they ended up accepting the tooth loss immediately. 29 within 6 months. 12 about a year. And then 3, it took over a year. So this out of the study tells me the bulk is about 6 months, which is interesting. I think it took me, I think I took to my dentures immediately. So I would be interested to see in this support group, in this community. Go ahead and drop a comment. Did you take to your dentures immediately? Did you never take to them? Where are you at? Those who had no difficulties, 27 of them said they took to it immediately. 14 about 6 months, which is less than the ones with difficulties. And then only one person said it took about a year. People who had difficulties in accepting tooth loss took longer to come to terms with it compared with people who had no difficulties. About 64% of the group with no difficulties accepted their loss immediately. About 76% with difficulties took within 6 months to more than a year to accept tooth loss compared to 36% with no difficulties. What we just said. Now this one's interesting. Thinking back to when you lost your teeth, how did you feel? Guys in the comments. When you lost your last tooth, when you got your full extraction, when you lost one tooth recently, how did you feel about it? And here in table 3, feelings associated with losing the last remaining tooth, out of the people with difficulties and again no difficulties, so keeping it separated, the answers allowed were relieved, fearful, angry, gloomy, sad, dismayed, resigned, old, shocked, depressed, not happening to me, lost a part of myself, and unconcerned. Going through the difficulties, 28 said they were relieved, 5 said fearful, 3 said angry, 1 said gloomy, sad were 19, 16 people were dismayed, 14 were resigned, 16 said I feel old, 7 said I was shocked, 6 said I'm depressed, 3 it's not happening to me, 19 said I lost a part of myself, and then the last one was goose egg, 0 for not being concerned at all. So a pretty wide spectrum of numbers. Now the people with no difficulties accepting tooth loss, 25 of them said they felt relieved, 3 of them said sad, 3 of them said dismayed, 17 said resigned, 6 said old, 2 said depressed, 3 said I lost a part of myself, and 18 said I'm not concerned, I'm unbothered. And the rest of those emotions remaining, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other emotions, fearful, angry, gloomy, sad, shocked, not happening to me, goose eggs. None of the people that had no difficulties accepting tooth loss felt any of those things. And then they summarized the data after that again. Did you try to keep tooth loss a secret? It's another great question. For me, I think it was circumstantial, at least at first. There was a reason why my diaries were originally privated, and it wasn't until after the fact that I decided, you know what, this could really help somebody, so I opened up. About 33% of the group with difficulties tried to hide their tooth loss compared with 5% with no difficulties. Did you consider tooth loss a taboo subject that could not be discussed with partner, family, friends, or others? Personally, I think there are inappropriate times and people to have the conversation with. And at the same time, it's not a taboo subject. It's something that I would personally say I recommend you talk to your partner. Family that you trust. I wouldn't say all family because I have my own experience with family. Now, if you're talking about my people at work who I consider family, then yes, they all know. Friends, my one friend knows, and she's known since the beginning. And others, I honestly talk about my dentures with you guys. Anyone can look up this channel. Anyone that has access to internet and YouTube, they can find this. Holy crap, I said it would be a long video and it's been an hour. And we're basically only on one article. And when I'm at my job, there have been circumstances where the person I'm talking to had expressed their own insecurity, or they'd even said something that I knew what they were talking about. They just weren't coming out and saying, I don't have teeth. I think I talked about this in a previous video. So talking about a person's nutrition and what their preferences were for food. And she had said, I can't have anything hard, no peanuts, no almonds, nothing like that, only soft foods. And I honestly just opened right up and said, yeah, you know what, I get it. Personally, I don't have biological teeth, I have dentures. So if you don't mind, the person I have to send this information to, do you mind if I speak on your behalf from my own personal experience, because I feel like I can relate? And her eyes got so big and she was like, what? And it was a really beautiful and profound moment. So personally for me, when it's appropriate and when I can use it for good for someone else, I will talk about it. I'm open about it. I'm fine with it. I have no one to hide it from when my son and my husband knows. Nothing else matters. My team knows and they help me learn how to talk again, so. Back to the data. About 17 respondents, 17% could not discuss tooth loss with their partners. 25 with their families and their friends, and 40% with others. So of those, the lowest amount of people that would not talk to their partners was 17 people. The highest number was 40% or 40 people. They would not talk to other random people, not talking about their loved ones or friends, but others, random people. About 24% with difficulties could not discuss tooth loss with partners, compared with the 7% that had no difficulties. I feel like I read that wrong now. 36% with difficulties could not discuss tooth loss with family. And 55 with difficulties could not discuss tooth loss with others. So if you have difficulties with yourself experiencing or accepting the tooth loss, it makes sense to me that you would struggle very much with opening up. For me, I accepted the tooth loss from very early on. I think what did it in for me was when my dentist back in high school finished my reconstructional surgery, and he said, yes, you will eventually need dentures. I accepted my fate, and it just took me some time to kind of heal it over. So I guess I didn't accept it right away. But I put myself on the mental path to going toward it. I knew it was inevitable. Did you perceive a change in other people's behavior or attitude toward you as a result of tooth loss? Ooh, this is a good one. About 29 of people with difficulties accepting their own tooth loss felt that the attitude of other people toward them had changed, compared with 5% with no difficulties. So if you have difficulty accepting your tooth loss, 29 of those people, 29% of the people that had difficulty said yes, their attitude changed. And only 5% of the people that accepted their own tooth loss said, yeah, people changed how they acted towards me. Did losing your teeth affect your self-confidence? This is actually a very incredible article. I'm thoroughly impressed. Table 4, tooth loss and self-confidence. Again, keeping the separation of people who had difficulties accepting and had no difficulties accepting. Those who had no difficulties accepting, 4 of them said yes, they lost self-confidence. Or said yes, it affected their self-confidence. Because it says, did losing your teeth affect your self-confidence? It doesn't say, did losing your teeth make you lose confidence, just to be very clear. 4 of them said yes, it affected their confidence. And 38 of the people with no difficulty said no, it did not affect my confidence. People with difficulties accepting said, 22 said yes, it affected my confidence, and 36 said yes, or no, it did not affect my confidence. About 38% of the people with difficulties felt their confidence was affected after losing teeth, compared to 9.5% with no difficulties. Because of losing your teeth, have you ever been restricted in carrying out any of the following range of activities? So very consistent, we're going to separate the people with difficulties versus no difficulties accepting. The options here are, were your choice of food restricted? Did you avoid going out in public? Did you avoid eating in public? You don't enjoy food as much. You avoid laughing in public. You avoid forming close relationships. You avoid interactions with family. Avoiding interactions with friends and coworkers. And avoiding interactions with others in general. So, of that amount, we will go through the yeses. Yes, these people experienced it. Because in this table, it offers you both the column yes and no for each, for both sides, difficulties, no difficulties. So, to keep it a little more narrowed down, we'll just stick to the yes responses. People that had difficulties, 51 said, 51. I don't know if that number sounds right. We'll keep it moving. 51 said yes. Oh, okay, it's out of each question, not the total through. Okay. Sorry, I misread I was underthinking. 51 said yes, their choice of food was restricted with people with difficulties. Out of the no difficulties, 27 said yes, their food was restricted. Avoiding going out in public, 25 said yes, that have difficulties accepting. Only 3 said they had no difficulties going out or avoiding going out in public. That they avoided going out in public. 27 avoided eating in public. People with difficulties. People with no difficulties accepting. Only 3 avoided eating in public. Difficulties had 46 that they did not enjoy food as much, and 27 with no difficulty said they did not enjoy food as much. 27 with difficulties avoid laughing in public, 6 for no difficulties. 18 responded avoiding forming close relationships with difficulties, only 1 for avoiding form close relationships with no difficulties. 10 avoiding interactions with family with difficulties, only 1 avoiding interactions with family with no difficulties. 16 having difficulties avoid interactions with friends and coworkers, only 2 avoid interactions with friends and coworkers if they had no difficulties accepting their tooth loss. 17 for yes to avoiding interactions with others that had difficulties accepting, and only 2 if they had no difficulties accepting. So the numbers are definitely spread to one side for the yes responses. What I'm getting out of this is that your activities are not as restricted if you don't have as hard of a time accepting your tooth loss. If you struggle with accepting your tooth loss, you're probably going to feel a little more limited or restricted on your life's activities. Do you think that the shape of your face has changed since you lost your teeth? 86 respondents, or 86%, including 88 with difficulties and 83 with no difficulties, felt that the shape of their face had changed after tooth loss. Although the difference was not statistically significant between the two groups, people with difficulties were more likely to be upset as a result of the perceived change, which was statistically significant. So, a lot of people felt their face shape changed. The majority did. And some of them felt it was not for the better. Do you think that having dentures improved your appearance, confidence, and social life? For me, absolutely. Let's see what others had to say. Of 64 respondents who used dentures, 54 felt that dentures improved their appearance. 48 felt that they improved their confidence. And 50 felt that they improved their social life. So, half or over were overall feeling better about their appearances, confidence, and social lives after getting dentures. Just to be clear, this is not including people who get their teeth extracted and did not have dentures after the fact. So this specific study is not going to include how those people feel after their teeth extraction, because I imagine when you can look forward to having dentures afterwards, you may feel one way, and if you don't have dentures to look forward to, you may feel another way. And again, some people might not feel any different, one way or the other. Table 6, perceived improvement with dentures. The improvement with dentures referring to appearance, confidence, and social life. It just goes into the more specifics again, but we already looked at the percentages. Do you feel comfortable leaving your dentures out at night? You guys, as I'm asking these questions, please leave comments, answer. Let's see how many different people we have in here, how many different ideas and thought processes. Obviously, if you're driving and just listening to this as you drive or whatever, no pressure. Please drive safe. About 50 respondents who used dentures felt comfortable leaving their dentures out at night. So half. Among the group which expressed difficulties in accepting the tooth loss, 30 out of the 36. And among the group with no difficulties, 20 out of the 28 had no problem leaving their dentures out at night. So across the board, people were expressing they had no problems leaving their dentures out at night. Do you ever avoid looking at yourself without your dentures in place? This is another really interesting one. 47% of people with difficulties accepting tooth loss avoided looking at themselves without dentures. And only 14% of the people without difficulties also avoid looking at themselves when they don't wear their dentures. So, still a pretty good amount. But what's really incredible is that almost half of the people, less than half of the people in the study avoided looking at themselves without dentures, which means others were okay with it. Do you avoid letting your partner or your friend see you without your dentures in place? I certainly do. 89% of people with difficulties accepting tooth loss and 96% without difficulties had no problem letting partners see them without their dentures. Almost all of them, across the board, almost everyone has no problem letting partners see them without their dentures, which is, again, incredible. That's awesome. Similarly, a majority, 81% and 96%, respectively, had no problem letting their friends see them without their dentures. See, I absolutely not. Nope. Do you consider your dentures to be a part of yourself or a foreign body, or neither of these? These are some really great questions. One second. It's going to be a late one, guys. Feel free to stop this video, come back and watch it again later. Watch more of it later. These are very interesting questions, though. Do you consider your dentures to be a part of yourself, a foreign body, or neither of these? So those are the options. And the majority of people in both groups with difficulties and without, 83 and 86%, felt their dentures were a part of themselves. That is phenomenal. That is incredible. Now, keep in mind, every single person in this study had dentures provided or that they got after the fact. Did you feel prepared for the effects that the loss of your teeth had on you? So did you feel prepared? Did you guys feel prepared? Do you feel prepared? Are you getting prepared? Of the 100 respondents, only 37% felt unprepared for the effects of tooth loss. About 45% of the people in the group with difficulties and 26% of the group without difficulties felt they had been unprepared. I mean, I could see this either way. Now, the reality for me is that it was undeniable. I knew it was going to be hard for a lot of reasons. One of them was that when I had my crowns, people always told me that when I smiled, I looked like my mom. I lost my mom. Now I'm going to lose the biological teeth that I was born with. She made me. So I almost felt like, in a sense, I was losing a piece of her. as far as being unprepared, I think some people might underestimate how much of a loss it is. I don't think anyone, corrects me if I'm wrong, no one says, oh, a tooth loss is just a tooth loss. I mean, I suppose there's like hockey players like my husband and things like that where it's like, yeah, it happens. It's a part of the thing. But anywho, the screening for depression revealed that 79% had no depression to minimal depression. Very high number. And that's lumping with difficulties and without. 13% had mild depression. So a little more than minimal. 4% had moderately severe depression. And the remaining 4% of that had severe symptoms. None had symptoms for moderate depression. The group which had difficulties accepting tooth loss were more likely to exhibit depressive symptoms than the group with no difficulties. The association was significant. And there's a chart here. Looking at the graph, I mean, the side with none to minimal depression is huge. Huge. Then not even half was mild depression. And then even less than that was the moderately severe and then severe depression. We're about the same. So the good news is almost none of them, those with getting dentures, had depression, or they had very little depression, maybe for like a day or two. I know for me, my first week was pretty difficult. I had to be a lot more patient with myself. I knew I made the right decision. I just had to cope with the loss. And then under that is discussion. Sorry, I'm just kind of jumping ahead to see. Okay. So let's get to the conclusion. About 58% of the edentulous people studied had difficulties accepting tooth loss, which was unrelated to denture satisfaction. Respondents appeared more affected by the restriction in social activities due to functional limitation rather than the appearance. So having the dentures, they didn't feel as badly about their appearance with having the dentures. It was more so the fact that they were physically limited. Those who had difficulties accepting tooth loss were also more likely to experience depressive symptoms. That was a lot, and I need to readjust. Okay. So here's my conclusions. I recommend anyone and everyone thinking about getting dentures, you at least do a consultation with a therapist or a counselor maybe. And I say that because from this study, it would lead me to believe that if you were to find out you already have depression, at least then you have someone in your corner who would be aware that you are about to make a huge life decision that may further your depression along or increase the severity. Even if you don't have depression or you don't think you do, maybe still go seek that consultation or be assigned and hire a therapist or a counselor. Because even then, let's just say the best case scenario, for someone who doesn't have depression, maybe you're one of those people, maybe you develop depression after the fact. Wouldn't it be nice to already have a follow-up appointment a month or a week after your full extraction and you get your dentures, or you don't, and you go meet with your therapist and you tell them, I made this decision, it was a good decision, it was not a good decision, this is how I'm feeling, how I'm not coping. And at least you have that professional in your back pocket to start helping you mentally and emotionally heal. The best situation would be, maybe you have depression, maybe you don't, but at the end of it, you're like, hey, you know what? This changed nothing. I still don't have depression, or my depression is still the same, and I'm going to continue treating it as I had been, or whatever the case might be. But either way, I would recommend, if you are able to have it, find a therapist. Because while a therapist can't help you with the physical aspects of the dentures that I know of, or loss of teeth, they can at least help you through the mental and emotional toll that comes with it, and maybe help you find creative solutions with it to help at least keep you on a better path. And then I would also recommend working on accepting the loss of your teeth beforehand. There's no experience like it, but what I can say is, for me, the biggest and most profound way that I could explain accepting my tooth loss was that I made those recordings and videos and took photos of the crowns that were broken, teeth that were missing, and keeping that reality. And that helped me accept why I lost my teeth, why I chose to lose my teeth. But finding a way for you to, as early on as you can, accept the loss of your teeth, just so that you're a little bit better prepared. And then touching on that as well, for anyone not feeling as though they were prepared well, let's find a way to be prepared, whether it's here or somewhere else, whatever it may be. This actually took longer than I thought it would. So Marina, this is a video solely dedicated to your comment alone. I thought I was going to get further along, but I can make an additional follow-up. But that is my recommendation. Just from what I read here and what was found. Because if you can find ways to accept your teeth loss, it looks like you're going to be better off. If you have depression, please get ahead of it and stay ahead of it the best that you can. And if you aren't sure about how prepared you are, get prepared. Be prepared. Are the three biggest things. Those are the takeaways for this 1.5 hour long video. To all those questions that were in that article, please drop your own comments in the comment section. Let's find more conversation here that we can have together around our denture community and how we can better support and inform others and help people who are maybe thinking about doing the process. If you like videos like this one, go ahead and give it a like. And if you would like to continue watching videos from this group in the future, go ahead and subscribe. And I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.